Welcome to the Executive Acceleration Academy. This is a series. What we're doing today is a series of discussions. And on Thursday, we're going to very specifically be talking about thought work. We're going to be talking about thought work. And we're going to be talking about thought work from the perspective of what does it really look like as we endeavor to make radical change in our own lives? What does it look like when we say, we want to drive any sort of shift in the way things are? The first thing is, of course, recognizing that everything starts in our mindset. Everything starts in our mindset. And the idea behind the Executive Acceleration Academy is for those of us who want to do that deeper level thought, those of us who want to examine not only, our own thoughts and how to utilize our thoughts to, benefit us from the standpoint of any results we want to achieve in life, any relationships that we want to enhance and grow. It's really around getting to that deeper desire and dream about who we are and the life we want so that we can put those steps into play. And I know that a main factor in us achieving anything, especially achieving change, has to do with the way we think. So the Executive Acceleration Academy is going to be a series of different learning opportunities. One thing is the strategic seminars. So on Saturdays, I'm going to pick a topic that either got a lot of interest or something we didn't get a chance to cover in the weekday deep dives, right? So if it's a Tech Tuesday topic, or a Workplace Wednesday topic, or a Thought Work Thursday topic, we will get into them in more depth in the strategic Saturday seminars. In addition to that, I'm going to continue to do Ask Me Anything sessions where people can either talk about something that they're deep diving, or we can go further into a topic from one of the seminars, a topic from one of the forums, or we can get into the topic in more depth from the executive accelerators. So the executive accelerators, for those of you who are new to the concept, is a monthly symposium where we also hold it, of course, inside of the Leaders Learn Radical Change app, but we're really expanding thought leadership in these areas of personal evolution, self-empowerment, and more. And the main thing that we want to focus on is managing our own radical change, managing our own radical change. So this guidebook, just like the symposium guide, is going to have pages in there for you to take notes when you download it later, or just so you know now here's some places to do some reflection. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of start the conversation around critical thinking and problem solving, and how, if we think about a lot of the problems in our world and we think like, why the hell is nobody working on it, or why don't people think it's more important, right? And we think, well, critical thinking and the lack thereof is standing in the way. But when I was doing some research over the past 3 weeks, I've been doing a whole lot of research, but I was pulling some things together around mindset and critical thinking and getting some stats. And so I wanted to pull these five out, just so that we can have a basis for what we're going to be talking about today from the standpoint of why critical thinking and problem solving is important. The first is that the World Economic Forum, Davos, they talk about critical thinking and problem solving skills being among the top skills in high demand. What I think is interesting is you got a bunch of rich people that make policy and that pay politicians to make laws talking about critical thinking. Because if the society at large, the greater public, did more public thinking, we wouldn't listen to them people at Davos. We wouldn't listen to them talking heads on CNN or anywhere else. We wouldn't be listening to them. If we as regular everyday people were applying critical thinking, we wouldn't give a damn what those people were saying, because we will be listening to our own intuition. We will be looking at our own reality around us instead of being stuck on stupid, which is that programming that we're given all the time. Another one that I thought was interesting is Edelman, right? Edelman saying 74% of executives believe that thought leadership is a crucial factor in differentiating their company from competitors. Okay, so one slave master thinks his company is better than the other because he thinks that he and others are so great at critical thinking. Okay, um really, again, why do we care what they say? But when you go to research what is the prevailing thought, or what is the leading studies, or whatever, it's all something from one of these companies, one of these corporations. Here's the next one. LinkedIn. 84% of executives say thought leadership is critical in deciding which companies that they're going to do business with. Really? Really? Is it really? Or do they decide to do business with whoever's going to help them make the most money? I mean, really, they really trying to make us believe that they use critical thinking as a determinant with who they're going to do business with. It doesn't take me a lot of critical thought to know that that's a goddamn lie. It's a lie. It makes no sense. Journal of Personality and Social Psychology students with a growth mindset had better academic performance and more resilient in the face of setbacks. I believe that. I believe that if people think that having a growth mindset is a good thing, then they would definitely be a person who would likely to have a level of resilience in the face of setbacks. I believe it. And then the final one is Berkeley says that people with strong critical thinking skills are likely to make better decisions and solve problems, leading to improved outcomes, whether personal or professional. And I said, okay, I can go with that. That sounds reasonable to me. That sounds like some statistics that make sense. But at the end of the day, um, the first thing that comes to me is that, like, the only limit that we have for anything is in our own mind and what we believe about ourselves. So that's where we start in today's conversation. Your only limit is your mind. Your only limit is your mind. And I had a conversation today with someone, and we were talking about something, and I tried to share a perspective that said basically your only limit is your mind. And they shared with me how it's very difficult for most people to see outside of what they're going through, because of how deeply they are going through trauma, right? So let's say somebody is experiencing a breakup of a relationship. Let's say somebody is experiencing food insecurity. Let's say somebody is experiencing depression due to housing insecurity, or whatever the case may be, right? Um, what goes through our minds at any given time is a product of what we've been conditioned to believe, and those prevailing thoughts based on what we believe. So if we have been conditioned, and I've used this example a few times, if we've been conditioned to believe that we have anxiety, that we have anxiety, and that because we have anxiety, we have to take this medicine, but we still going to have anxiety because we have anxiety. And that something that somebody did to us a long time ago is the reason that we have anxiety, or because of something that happened is the reason that we have anxiety. And if we are in that situation, and if we keep on telling ourselves, well, we have anxiety because we had a bad childhood, or I have anxiety because I have a bad childhood, I have anxiety because whatever, that may be the trigger, right? Anxiety, depression, any mental distress or chronic illness could be the trigger, but it doesn't have to be how you define yourself. It doesn't have to be how you think about yourself. I mean, I've had doctors that tell me all kind of stuff, and I'm like, I just really don't care. I don't care what they say. I do not care. I remember years ago, I used to get really bad migraines. I mean, I've gone to the hospital for my migraines. I've had to go to the ER for my migraines. And I remember a doctor saying to me, well, maybe you have a brain aneurysm. I said, maybe I don't, sir. I don't. I don't have a brain aneurysm. I absolutely don't have that. I don't have anything wrong with me other than whatever these hormonal or whatever environmental imbalances are that's causing this. But I'm not gonna let you tell me that I might have a brain aneurysm just because I get headaches all the time. Yes, I do get headaches all the time. Headaches actually run in my family. From the time I was a little girl, I've had them, blah, 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 blah. And because I always said, yes, I have a condition called migraine. And if I don't, be mindful of myself, then, it's likely that I might have, a flare up of one, but I'm not going to take that diagnosis. And I can think of so many things people have told me, and I'm like, no, I'm not accepting that. Like, I remember after COVID, one of my friends was like, well, now everybody got it. You're going to get it too. I said, I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to get COVID. I'm not going to get it. I'm not getting it today. I'm not getting it tomorrow. I'm not getting it ever. I'm not getting COVID. I don't care who has it. I'm not getting it. I don't care if you had it 77 times. I'm getting it 0 times. And I believe that our only limit is our mind. And so I believe that we can apply the power of our mind to control the things that we think about, to control the things we think about. So let's get into it. And I came up with 4 things for today that I feel are a good focus for thought work, individual thought work, and the same amount of thought work that will support, betterment of any personal relationships that we might want, including a relationship with ourselves. So the first is, what do you think about the most? What do you think about the most? And feel free to either come off mute or go in the chat. But the first key, right, and the first factor to thought work is assessing what we currently think about, and then being able to acknowledge what is the gap between what we think about and what we really want to think about. So, what are the topics on which you think most? Now, you can feel free to you know, make up a topic that might not be the main one, for privacy's sake and that kind of thing. But as an example, right, if I think about what are the things I think about most, one of the things I think about most, and I think a lot of people think about, is the impact of capitalism. Now, maybe not in those terms, like you don't think about saying it like, oh, I think about the impact of capitalism, but we think about paying our bills. We think about, buying shit that we need to buy, right? We think about how do we live and how do we do the stuff that we need to do. And depending on how how we engage in that thought, that's going to dictate how we talk to ourselves. It's going to dictate the story we tell ourselves, right? And it's going to dictate the things that we do. It's going to dictate the things that we do. So, a lot of people think about how do they impress other people or maintain a status or maintain how do they maintain something, right? Like, that's something that a lot of people think about. How do I maintain what I have, and how do I keep up with the Joneses, or how do I keep up so that everybody thinks that, I'm doing fine and everything is okay, when literally nothing is fine and nothing is okay. One of the reasons I'm so glad that I'm off of social media is that I have so much more time to really like work on myself and to really like think, and I can do it without interference and noise from things that are just not helpful to me. And I really, really appreciate it, because I can think about my future, and I can think about traveling, and I can think about the kind of work that I want to do with my clients, and I can think about, all the amazing food that I want to cook, and all of everything. I can think about that, and that's what I want to spend my time on. I want to spend my time on thoughts of fun and excitement and happiness and success and joy. I don't want to spend my time on bullshit. Because if I'm spending my time on bullshit and nonsense, then where is that getting me in the grand scheme of the things that I most want to do, the things that I most want to take part in? So, like, I think about how I always wanted to travel. I mean, literally, when I was in high school, I wanted to be a flight attendant, and everybody's like, "You have to go to college. You have to go to college." I was like, "For what? Why do I need to go to college? There's none I'm gonna learn in college that I don't already know that is gonna make a damn difference." But it was, that was the kind of family that I grew up in. That was the kind of environment, the kind of school I went to. Everything was go to college, go to college, go to college. Okay. So I went to college and I studied world history. I studied geography. I studied urban studies, city planning. Like, I studied all of these things, sociology and anthropological type things, because I always wanted to be around people and travel and do all of that. And now here I am, in my 50s, circling back to saying, no, I want to travel. And that's what I'm going to do. So when I am sitting around just chilling, I'm thinking about traveling. I'm thinking about, where do I want to go? I'm thinking about, what do I want to do? I'm thinking about, oh my goodness, I cannot wait to eat food that I never had before. Like, I think that is just so exciting, eating food that you never had before. Um and just listening to people talk about whatever, just walking down the street, just like, what does the sun feel like here versus what does the sun feel like, somewhere else, right? Like, and so when I think about what drives my thoughts, it's my desire, right? My desire for what I want my life to be. I want to be traveling. And when I'm home, I want to just be cooking some good food and trying out recipes that I had, things that I had, and seeing if I can recreate the taste of it. Like, that's like my thing I love doing at home. Like, once I can figure out how to make something taste similar to something I had, man, I'm in business. And so the thing I think about is traveling, and what drives that, right, is this desire to travel. This like, I want to do it, right? Um and what I want to invest my time in thinking about is what I want to do. I want to travel, so I want to be thinking about, okay, what are some of the things, like today I downloaded the mobile passport connector thing for American citizens. So when you come back into the country, you just go through this other line that's supposed to be so much shorter. Yay! So I downloaded it. I uploaded my passport picture and the little barcode. I'm ready to go. Next time I come back in the country, apparently I can get in a line that's shorter than all the other lines. So we'll see how it goes. So I'm constantly thinking about the things that have to do with what I want to be thinking about. I'm constantly thinking about travel hacks. I'm constantly looking at the different, um, sites that say, "Oh, we got $19 flight," and then I look and I say, "Okay, do you really?" And then I look and see is there anywhere I want to go or whatever, right? So I'm constantly investing time in that, right? And then that final towering thought, right, is what interferes with being intentional and consistently lovely in our thoughts. So in the symposium, we broke down, what is it to manage your own radical change. And one of the pieces is around, um, operating in this mode of lovely. So that means having lovely thoughts, thinking about things that are positive and good and affirmative, saying things that are positive, good, and affirmative, doing things that are positive, good, and affirmative, and feeling in ways that are positive and good. And so the question is, what interferes with us being able to think intentionally, positively, affirmatively, forward looking, keeping our head to the sky, being optimistic, believing in ourselves? What interferes with that? What interferes with it? I think for a lot of people, it's the distractions. I think for a lot of people, it is the violence that they are so used to getting, from other people, that it's like, no, I need to keep my thoughts on how do I keep myself safe. And I think that there's some other reasons. But what I want us to do is I want us to think for a few minutes and let's go through some of these and maybe jot down for yourself, what do you think about the most? What drives your most common thought? What drives those thoughts? On what do you want to invest time thinking? And what interferes with being intentional and consistently lovely in your thoughts? Think about that for a couple of minutes. And feel free to jump in if you want to. But I want us to take time for thought. Take time for thought. If I was in the house, I had my music queued up, but I'm in the car. And I think that for a lot of people want to think positive. People want to think affirmatively. People want to think, mindset focused, and at the same time, they just don't know how. They haven't had time to practice. They haven't had the opportunity to really do it. To really do it. And if you ask me, critical thought is crucial thought. Critical thought is crucial thought. And unfortunately, right, a lot of us are not allowed to be critical, whether it's because of violence, whether it's because of our conditioning that has just, made us passive or made us a people pleaser. We just don't have the time for it. We don't have the time for critical thought, whether or not we don't take the time or not. But here's some other things that when it comes to critical thought and why it's crucial. I was looking at, what do companies say? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah,
Jump
I
in.
wanted to say on the. Can you go back to the previous slide?
Yep.
What drives your most common thoughts, and where do you want to invest your time thinking? So, what drives your most common thought for me was like, I gotta get, I gotta get something done to make money, right? Like either I gotta work for the company, I gotta, I gotta create a product that I can sell on my website. I gotta, whatever. I gotta. And that's like always in the back of my mind. Whenever I'm not thinking about that, it's like it comes back. Like maybe I'm watching a movie. Oh, have you thought about a product? Are you doing something? Are you working on something? And so that's to me that's the biggest driver, right? Because I feel there's an insecurity about money, about finances and resources that keeps coming back to me and drives me essentially back to the thought, right? And then on what I want to invest my time thinking. So I've been trying to do that more is to kind of like the old saying of if you spend time sharpening the axe, it will be easier to cut down the tree. And so
Yes.
it's more of a don't think about the first thing that comes in your head and go, okay, I'm gonna do that, and then because that thought isn't sharp yet, right? So I need to go, okay, I know I have this idea, but then I need to like clearly think it through and let it sit for a while and let it macerate in my brain to see if it's really gonna work or if I need to, do something else. And so that's what I want to do is to still think about the ways to make money, but in a way that is not wasteful or I just do a bunch of projects and then they don't go anywhere. So I stop and then I have to start another one. Does that make sense? Anyway.
It does. It does make sense because the way our society is structured, that's how it forces us to do it. It forces us to do it, right? And we stay used to doing that. Like we're conditioned into it. Like the thing is how to get out of it, right? How to break out of it is the real challenge. And and I think that the challenge, it definitely starts in our mind, but the other piece is that like it has to be conscious. Like it has to be like where we are literally breaking down things in a critical way. So for example, if you think about a task that you have from the company that wants you to do project 49B. So Chris has been assigned project 49B. Project 49B has to get done by X date. Okay. So is the way that you're thinking through, okay, I got to get this done in a way that's all consuming or consuming something greater, right? Than just okay, I know this is a project that I get done and I'm gonna get this done so that, so that I make the money, and but it's not something that I'm thinking of as this is some life changing work. I gotta do it perfectly, blah blah blah. What is the process behind you thinking through it? Like, are you thinking of it from the standpoint of, yeah, I'm just doing the bare minimum that I need to survive because I'm taking the money that I'm making and I'm making the lives better for myself and people in my life?
So for that, I think that when I'm trying to do a project, right,
Hmm.
I'm always thinking, what's the least amount of work? What's the path to the least amount of work? Not just for me, but for anybody, right? Like if I can minimize the amount of work by the organization, and but also on an ongoing basis. So, like for example, if something says set up a system that does this, and then other people are going to do it, like actually do the thing, then I'm thinking about how am I going to minimize the amount of work that I do, and then the amount of work that they're going to do, because it's if I'm being efficient for myself, but I'm making them inefficient, then it's also not good. So I really have to think through like um, the least amount of work, but also to complete the project correctly, right? Like if the customer wants it to work a certain way, it has to work that way, right? So it's kind of like balancing that the 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 requirement that it works, and then minimizing the amount of work. I used to over engineer things. I used to do like, oh, it has to be perfect, it has to follow all these things. No, I don't anymore. I'm like, we do the absolute bare minimum that works, and by far that's what the companies want. Like when I do the project like that, a company's like, oh, that was great, and I'm like, all right, I guess it is. So
I hit the wrong button. I hate that. Yes, exactly. No, that makes a lot of sense, and it sounds like, like you're definitely clear on it. Whereas I know a lot of people, especially when it comes to the relationship that they have with their employer, um, and even like if they're a gig worker, and they're doing, projects, ad hoc projects, that relationship is such that they're not recognizing sometimes that the reason that they feel they have to be perfect, or the reason everything has to be so good or whatever, is because they're seeking some kind of validation for themselves. And because the workplace, takes us through so many stages of validation anyway, it would make sense that we want the boss to say, hey, good job, you know hey, thanks for thinking about it in that way, or thanks for doing, that level of deep work, or thanks for this, or thanks for that. It makes sense because um you know we this is how we've been conditioned and trained, and so it's a retraining of the brain to be able to do that. Do you remember when you were able to make that shift for yourself from being so concerned about being perfect and getting everything done at this high quality level, to where you realize, yeah, good enough is good enough? Do you remember what that shift was like?
Yeah, it was in the mid 2000s, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
2007 or so. Um, it, I want to say that what happened was that um, I used to. So when you write software, and if it breaks, you're the one who has to fix it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you write crappy software, you're gonna spend a lot of time fixing it. So there's a propensity to want to do it perfectly so that you don't have to do any maintenance, right? Like it just
Mm-hmm.
works and you don't have to do anything and you just it's basically like fire and forget. Like you just do it once and you never have to think about it again. And when you come from and at the time I was going to university and one of the things at university is that's how you work at university. There's an assignment. The professor says, here's the requirements, and you do it, and you never have to do anything with it. Like you don't get called later, like a year later. Oh, this thing broke. Can you fix it? Right? But you want to
Right.
do it right for the professor, right? And so you always want to do it perfect, like to get the top grade. Like you want to do it 100%. But then later on, I realized that even if you do a project 100%, it's perfect. It's flawless. 6 months later, the customer says, we're gonna change a bunch of stuff, and then you're like, but wait, it was working fine. They go, yeah, but our customer doesn't want this anymore. They want something else. So because of the customers always changing their mind, I realized doing a great, perfect solution up front is completely useless because even if it's exactly fitting in your mind what it should be, as long as the customer can't use it, it doesn't matter. And you know what I used to call this?
Mm-hmm.
I used to call it building a Porsche to haul hay. You
Mm.
can you can build a Porsche and haul hay. It's just it's better if you have a Ford F-350.
Right.
You know, because you're
Right.
gonna carry 20 times as many. And and
Right.
the idea is that don't build a Porsche to haul hay. And that was my mindset is just build a flatbed truck and and that's it. Just be done with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. 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 So I like that idea of like really making into your mind like do it and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. And I think that requires critical thought, even that, right? It even requires it to decide this is how I'm going to decide what I'm going to do. I'm going to think critically about my own steps, my own actions, right? My own everything, right? Like I'm going to think critically about it. And why is he doing that? So I have a Subaru, right? And it's a big size, right? It's not the biggest one. But then when people with their trucks be doing stuff that I wouldn't even try to do in my Subaru. Anyway, that's what happens when you're in the car, you get distracted but watching other people do weird things next to you. But that's why critical thought is crucial because we get the opportunity to dig in and to utilize um utilize that thought and bring something about with it, right? Like we get to do it. And I was thinking about how like, we all have different intrusive thoughts at any point in time, like negative thoughts or whatever, and how those negative thoughts, I talked about it yesterday and I said that, you know, um, or recently I said that our traumas get triggers, right? We get triggered by trauma that gets tripped in us, right? And depending on how we have learned how to manage different triggers, is what it is, right? If we haven't had any practice, then we struggle. And so what I was thinking about is that when we have negative outcomes in our minds, when we have negative images in our mind, when we have negative words in our mind, I was thinking, okay, a way to really get thought work down, right, is to be intentional about it. And so the first thing I said was to take control over the thought immediately. Just tell yourself, stop, nope. Like I say, nope, nope, nope to myself. But you could say stop, no, right? You could say, just one little thing like or something, and then immediately, right, transmute that energy of the moment. If you are feeling negative, something's coming to mind, transmute that energy. Say nope, and then do something. Like, even if you just say, nope, I love myself, I know myself, I trust myself. Nope, I'm going to control my mindset. No, I can control my message. I get to control what I talk about. Take a quick, go outside real quick. Take your shoes off. Stand up. Take a deep breath. Turn on some music. Sing something. Yell something. Do something to transmute that energy. Don't let your mind be this thing that you don't have control over. Transmute that energy of the moment when you get a negative thought. And then the third part of it is say out loud the thoughts that you want to have. So let's say, and I know a lot of people do this, especially in the workplace. We have a habit of doing that, like self-deprecating thing. Like maybe some of us might call ourselves stupid, or you call yourself a name, or whatever. Say out loud the thing you want to think. So you don't have to say, well, I'm not dumb. I know the difference. I know the answer, right? Instead, right, you can say, I am an amazing and brilliant person, and I'm going to get this thing figured out. I am so smart. I just love myself. I am so fantastic. Like, say something positive, right? And say something that affirms who you are, your personal success. Don't be negative or punitive. I used to have a habit of getting mad at myself when I would be self-deprecating to myself. So not only would I be like, oh man, you couldn't figure that out, and I'd be like, oh, you shouldn't have said that. No. And then I would go into this little self-deprecating cycle of being mad at myself because I was being self-deprecating. Well, at the end of it, right, like, it's just a habit that has to be replaced with something positive. So instead of saying, oh, you shouldn't have said that, I can just say, now, girl, you know you are smart as hell. Now, you know you look fantastic. You know you are amazing. You know you are great. And say what I want to say out loud. I can say, look how thoughtful and smart you are. Like, say what you know to be true, you know, say what you know to be true. Um, like, don't say the thing that you don't want. Only speaking up positive, speaking up affirmative, and utilize, right, everything you have at your disposal to give yourself that positive affirmative, right? What can you tell yourself? Like what is really the truth, right? Is the truth that you are an amazing and smart person and it just took you a minute to get something figured out? Perhaps, perhaps. And so just transmute that, right? And turn it into the positive, right? And take some time to think about that. The next one that I want to I want to say these next two, and then I'm going to run because I got a little bit of traffic to fight today because we have the state fair. I guess it's the county fair, and so it's a lot of bad traffic out. But is targeted thought leadership. Targeted. Like, I was on a conversation with somebody today, and this person was telling me that they have been focusing on three things, and all three of these things are different. And if you was trying to give somebody like an understanding of how they would group these things together, it's like, okay, they tangentially related, but basically she said, I talk about this one thing when I'm bored of this, and this other thing is this, and da 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 da. And I thought, well, now why aren't you being more targeted in what you're trying to do? If you're trying to raise the level of awareness or, thought leadership, and you're trying to like take people on a journey so that they can learn and grow, wouldn't you want to be targeted in what you're doing? Like, I was thinking about how all of my work, my entire career for 40 years, and July is my 40th anniversary of being in the work world, and it's my 4-year anniversary of radical change. And I was thinking about like how radical change was all founded on the concept of leaders learn change. And the leadership part, which is, the leader's mantra, which is leaders learn change, but the fact that is to be an optimistic ace, right? And ace is authentic, curious, and empathetic. And how, I kind of scaled down and slimmed down to focusing on empathy from the standpoint of, what does it look like in this aspect of leadership, but more so on an anti-racism level. And after spending that time doing that, it's recognizing that it still boils down into how we think. It still boils down to the mindsets that we hold. The reason people can't unleash empathy is because they don't even have a thought about leadership of themselves, nor anything or anyone else. And here we are, regular people, thinking that we looking towards all these people, the Bill Gates and the Barack Obamas and the Tim Cooks and the whoever's, Oprah Winfrey's or whoever the hell, thinking that these people are leading or that we should be listening to them. But we should be doing is targeting our own thoughts, targeting our own thoughts, and targeting our thoughts about the kind of life that we want to have. Go ahead, jump in.
Yeah, I mean, they live their lives, we live our lives, and then they just like we don't know, we only get the public image of them, and if we kind of we try to be like them, not knowing all of it, um, then we're gonna try to become like a shadow of them, so to speak, or shadow of their
Mm-hmm.
public image. But they we don't know what's going on in their real life. Maybe they just had a fight with their kids that morning,
Yep.
and they were ugly, right? And
Yep.
who knows, right? And so we think of them as like, oh, these amazing people, but all we see is a curated media image, and it looks like they've got it all together, but who knows, right? So just like we don't know what's going on internally, and they've filtered their image to only show the good side. We think that if we hide our ugly and only show the good side of us, and only look at the good side of us, then we're going to be like them. It's not
Mm-hmm.
going to work.
Never. 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 It's not. We have to look inside. And I was thinking like it's about defining a target for ourselves. How do we want to think? Right? Back to the thing about the do you have the time and space to think about the things, right? Like what's interfering with that? But part of it is our own. Like, because what is the target? What is the thing that you want to be thinking about? What is that? Right? Like for me, like I said, it's travel. And that's what I want to do with my life. I want to travel, but at the same time, I want to help people to become so self-empowered that they're able to be like, yeah, well, this is what I want to do, and I'm not thinking or worrying about anybody else. That my thoughts are targeted on me and the things that are going to support what's going to make me happy, right? What's going to take me to where I'm trying to go in life, right? And so I want us to think about like what that looks like, and I want us to make a conscious commitment. Like, I was thinking about how they was talking about how human beings, we have all these different things that separate us from the animals, right? But more than anything, it's our mind, right? And our ability to speak. And I was thinking that the thing that really makes the difference when it comes to shaping how we want to think, shaping how we want to experience life, shaping anything, it requires our conscious commitment. And so I wanted to you know, really put that forward that like we have, like I said earlier, right? The power, our only limit is our mind, right? Like that's the only limit. And the thing is to see what we want to to fruition requires a conscious commitment. It requires a conscious commitment, and that conscious commitment is going to be on our part. It's going to be on our part. It has to be something that we decide, yeah, this is something that we want to do, not this is something that, is going to just happen because, we're nice people, or it's going to happen because we're good people. No, if we want to see anything be different, right? We have to make a conscious commitment towards that thing, or it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So I was thinking, okay, think it through, right? And I was thinking about the fact that managing our own radical change, it begins with managing our thoughts, and those thoughts must be aligned to the dreams and desires we have. And it's not what we've been prescribed. It's not what we've been pedantically programmed or pandered into. It is what we aligned to, our own dreams and thoughts. Like listen to no one. Listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. Like I was thinking about how people so often project, themselves onto us, right? And I was having a conversation with somebody today that was literally telling me something that wasn't to my benefit. They was telling me something that, kind of like even borderline harmful. And I'm thinking, why? Then I thought, oh, because this is about that person, and this is about, them. We all view the world through our own vantage point. Like, we are not viewing the world through the vantage point of anybody but ourselves. So when that person was trying to give me advice about something that I didn't even ask for, that was them talking to themselves about something. And so recognizing that, right, and knowing that, yeah, I don't even have to entertain what they were saying, but it was just quite fascinating because I keep my thoughts aligned to the things that's important to me, right? It is showing my daughter how to be able to take care of herself, a house, a car, you know, um, service workers that got to come and do like I'm on a mission for stuff, and that mission doesn't involve trying to manage or tell other people what to do. It is trying to share what I've learned and how I'm continuing to learn, in these ways that I'm seeing the world change right before my eyes. So I want to encourage people to, manage your own thoughts and keep them aligned to the things that are important to you. Comments, thoughts, what's going through your mind?
Yeah, I agree, and I think that, but I think the real mm, the real kicker in this issue is that people think that that what they have to be is something society tells them they have to be, so they feel like they need to align themselves to that notion
Hmm.
that people around them want them to be or say that they want
Yep.
them to be. So that becomes our target to who they want to become. So, for example, if they have to be wealthy and own a house, then I have to work, then I have to go to office, and I have to do this, and then they come back to it at the end of the day, and they go, I got to do all these things. But that's not what they really deeply deeply want, and so it creates an
Correct.
ambivalence between them. And they, one moment they're they have to chase that image that society wants them to have, and then the next moment they're frustrated that they can't be themselves.
Right. Yep.
So,
Yep.
so to me, that just because you want to have your thoughts aligned with what you want to be, but first you have to know what you want to be.
Correct.
I have
And that what you want to be has to come from you. It can't come from people around you.
Yeah, I absolutely love that because I'm at a place where I'm still trying to figure out, and that was my number three on that first slide. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do, and
Hmm.
so yeah, it's just really great.
Well, I'm so glad. I'm so glad you got to make it live. I miss you.
Oh, I know it's been so long. I realized I was logged out of the app.
Oh, because it updated.
I yeah. So when I went to join the call, it's like you need to log in. I was like, oh crap. Okay.
Hmm. Well, you made it, and now you're good to go. And I'm so glad. that this was food for thought, because that's the idea, right? Is that we have to get to a point where we can take a little bit of time for ourselves to even do some of this work, right? Like we stay so busy because we got so many things we have to do to survive. And anytime we can take a little bit of time to be thoughtful and put that thought towards something that's going to make our lives better, that's where we want to be. And I'm just excited that like I said, I'm back, I'm rolling, and we are going to deep dive into these weekday discussion topics, and we're going to keep on going. I have pages and pages and pages of notes that I was taking when it comes to thought work, critical thinking, mindset, and we're going to get into it. And that's why I made a whole day for it, right? Um, so that we could do it on Thursdays, and I will see y'all next Thursday.
Sounds good.
Um, for sure. And we will get more into these, and we'll deep dive on other stuff.
Okay.
Awesome. Sonda?
Yay.
Yeah. You got a question? Jocelyn, did you have a
No, no,
question?
no. I just said thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You are welcome. I didn't want to, if you did have a question, I didn't want to not hear it. Thank you so much. Thank y'all for joining. And hey, I'll see y'all soon. Oh, and I'm going to pin the workbook in the chat here. And then that way you can either, download it or you can print it out. I'll pin that in, and then that way you have it, to take notes especially when you get some quiet time, you can, do some journaling, in the pages. So thank y'all so much, and I'll see y'all next time.